Thanks, Dave. Hey guys. So hands up if you were one of the people that wrote in the survey that you want to see some JavaScript. Oh, none of you, great. So Dave's a little pissed at me because this talk is, the code that I'm going to show you is JavaScript, but it's all about CSS. And it's about tasks that you can automate to help your CSS development. I thought I would talk about this because when I first tried to do this, it was something that was really new to me as a front-end developer. Yeah, I'd written some JavaScript stuff to work in the browser. I could do CSS, I could do HTML and all that, but when people at my work started talking about, continuous integration, automated builds, this sounds really cool, and I definitely want to automate some of the tasks that I'm doing. And so when my workmate said, that's great, we're so happy that front end will do this as well, yeah, go away and just write a make file of what you want, and then all you need to do is then configure a Jenkins slave and run your make file on it and set up your task, and it'll be great. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck any of that means. and I had to learn. So I thought it might be cool to walk you guys through just a really simple set of automated CSS development-related tasks that you can do yourself, just so that you can kind of see the process of how you put these kind of build tasks together. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. There's on different platforms, there's Make, there's Ant. There's a few options for Node, and the one that we're going to look at today is called Gulp. Has anybody used Gulp? Yeah, a few. Cool, okay. So this will be familiar for you guys, but I just thought I'd run through the process, and obviously it's quite similar for Grunt. The main difference with Gulp is that most of these tools are task runners. So you say, run this task. So you say, okay, kick off my SAS compilation task. Kick off my task that copies a file from here to there. Kick off a task that renames a file. Gulp is slightly different in that Gulp actually takes a file as a stream and allows you to do some work on it. And I quite like it because it means that your build files can be a lot simpler because you're not having to kick off separate tasks for everything. Once you've got the file that you want to work on, you can then pipe it through sort of several scenarios and do a lot of things quickly. So I'm going to show you guys two sort of setups. One is for a development environment, so something you can set up to just kick off, have it automate some of the tasks that you want it to do while you're developing. And then we'll try and use sort of some of the same things to also do what we might want in a sort of production build scenario. So where we want to say, okay, here's the CSS that I wrote, and on my build server somewhere, this is going to get automatically compiled and whatever for me. So unlike Peter, I don't have slides, and I'm live coding everything. So all those people that put up their hand before and said they use Gulp, it's your job to help me out when I screw up. Just to show people through the whole process as well, I'm going to start with creating an Npm module. So we're going to use an Npm module to hold all our node dependencies. So this will basically kind of keep track of all the dependencies of all the tools that we're using. So I'm just going to run through the whole process basically, and we'll get as far as we can in 15 minutes. But this whole thing is on GitHub. So if we don't get all the way through, the full thing's on GitHub, and hopefully it will just give you, it's just a small taste. I mean, this is like a tenth of what you might do in your production environment, but hopefully it will just kind of give you an idea of the kinds of things you can do and how easy it is to put together. Okay, so I've just created a little project here that just has kind of some basic stuff that you might always have. So I've got some styles. Actually, I might show this. Can you guys see that okay? Yeah. Cool, okay, so I've just got a really simple HTML file. I apologize that the HTML and CSS for this demonstration is like ultra boring, but I was spending all my time getting things happening quickly. And again, I'm doing this with SAS. So again, you could be using less, you could be using stylish, you could be doing a whole bunch of stuff. So I can only really show one way, but again, hopefully this will kind of give you a good idea. So, oh, that shouldn't be there. Live coding from scratch. It's going to be cool. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create an Npm module out of this folder, right? So I've got my folder, but now it doesn't know anything about having any node dependencies. So I'm just going to go npm init on live. This is going to step us through, and I'm just going to do this real quick, so we're not going to do anything proper. It's got a name, it's got a version, description is like something. The entry point, I don't have an index.js, so it's saying Gulp file. It doesn't really matter, we can pick that out later. I'm not going to have a test command, but we could put a command in test, and one of the things that you might want to do is use your test command to kick off a Gulp task. We don't worry about a Git repository, keywords, who cares? Okay, so that's all we need to do to set up an Npm module. And you can do this around the front-end code that you've got for any other project. So all this is going to do is generate, oh, is this okay? Yes. Okay, so all it's going to do is generate this package.json. And what will happen as we add dependencies, those will automatically get saved in our package.json. Then when we push this up to GitHub or wherever you keep your code, if someone else pulls it down, they just have to run npm install, and they'll automatically get all the tools that you've used installed. So that's important. Otherwise, you somehow need to maintain a list of all the tools that you've used, and the person has to download them themselves. So the first thing that we're going to need is a Gulp file. So gulpfile.js. So this is the file that we'll use to set up all our Gulp tasks. So the first thing we need is Gulp. Oops. Okay, but we don't have Gulp yet. And does everybody know what that require? The Gulp equals require. Okay, so this tells npm to go and get me the module called Gulp and make sure it's available. So if you have a look, npm has a lot of packages like this, and there's tons of stuff you can use. And most of them are really well documented as well. So you can see here that we've got file Gulp. It tells you how to use it. This one isn't giving me the code that I need, but we know it, so it's okay. So we just need to say, oh, whoops. So we just go npm install Gulp. Okay, so that's the name of the package that we want. Okay, and if I say save dev, that's going to automatically save it in the dev dependencies of my package.json. So if we go back to that now. So see, I've now got a node modules folder, and my package has one dev dependency called Gulp. So this just tells npm, I need this, but only for development. I don't need it for production. And you can use this. It's kind of cool using Node for this kind of thing because it's really easy to set up in parallel to other systems. So even if your work uses, some other stack that doesn't involve Node at all, it's still pretty easy to have this running on your local machine, and it's also pretty easy to have it running in your build environment without kind of screwing with other stuff. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I've got some Sass. So instead of having to run Sass watch all the time, I'm going to tell Gulp to run Sass for me. Okay, so I'm going to need another package. Or maybe. Okay, and I'm just going to call this one Sass. So Gulp tasks, that's something that comes from Gulp. Okay, and I'm going to use Gulp Ruby Sass. And as you can see, this one has the little bit of code I need, which is cool. That can go ahead in the background. And it also tells me, if I have a look down, oh, and it tells me how to include it as well. Okay, so we're going to start a task. And this also has some information about how to use it. And you'll find that this is one really cool thing with NPM, and especially with all these Gulp packages. You can find similar packages to this for Grunt and other systems, but they're all pretty well documented. So if you find one that is not well documented, maybe don't use it because most of the good ones are. Okay, so we're just going to say, in this case, we're going to run Sass, and we're going to tell it where to run it on. Okay, so we just go return Sass. Okay, so this is the variable we've just used. And all I need to do it is tell it where I want to go get Sass from. So In this case, I want to go get it from styles SCSS index. Okay, so at this point, it says, yep, okay, I know to go and run Sass on this thing. But what it doesn't know is where to send it. And that's where we can pipe to this gulp.destination. So gulp has this idea of gulp source and gulp destination. Source goes and gets a source file, and then it will pipe that through as many functions as you want, and then we send it to a destination at the end. So all I'm going to do here is go pipe. Gulp.destination. Okay, and I'm going to send that somewhere new. So I might send that to styles, say, CSS. Okay, that makes sense. And we might just put this error in as well, just so that weird stuff doesn't happen. And you might find that using Gulp, probably the one thing that is not the most awesome is that sometimes the error handling can be a bit random. So depending on what kind of errors you need to return for your build system, you might find that you need to adjust something with the way that Gulp is spitting out errors so that things don't go wrong, or so that you get the errors reported that you want. This is cool, so this will just tell us the message. And here, this also tells me somewhere, I can't see where, but Gulp Ruby Sass uses your internal version of Sass. So if you're running this on an external build server, you need to install Sass as well. There are other libraries that don't require the Ruby version of Sass, but they're not as up to date as this. So it's up to you what you use. Sorry? Well, I haven't got chocolates or anything. You guys are awesome. Thank you. All right, cool. So now we should be able to go in here and say, what did I call it? Sass? Oh, task Sass is not in your Gulp file. Oh. There we go. And it's run. And if we go and have a look in here, we'll see that CSS folder has magically appeared, and my index.css has magically appeared too. Okay, so at this point, we're not doing anything that we couldn't do with Sass Watch, and that's fairly boring. But we can add a few more things to this. Oops. Okay, so we definitely want source maps. So let's have some source maps. Okay, cool. And yeah, so I know it's a bit repetitive having to see the same thing over again, but I just wanted you guys to see the actual, like how you actually put it together. I don't know, because this is one of the things I found. So people use Gulp, and I'm like, okay, cool, but kind of seeing like where you actually get that information from, how you add it to the project, hopefully that will be informative and not too boring. Okay, so cool. So this tells me how to do that as well. So it says Gulp source. Okay, but I've already got a source from Sass, and that's one weird thing about using Sass with Gulp, is that it actually creates its own gulp.source. So normally we would say gulp.source, and we would go and get a file from somewhere and start using it. But Sass does that automatically for us. So we can just put our source maps right in here. So then we just need to go, actually just need this part. Right. Okay, run this again. Oh, and it didn't work. Should do it. Yay, okay. So that's done internal source maps. You can also do an external source map. There's just a little bit more to it, so we'll just keep it simple for now. So at this point, we've kind of just got what we've got from Sass Watch. But Gulp also allows you to watch files. So let's now create task. Okay, and here we're just going to say gulp.watch. Okay, and I'm going to tell it what files I want to watch, and I can give it a blob. So I'm going to tell it to watch styles, SCSS, and then okay, so it's going to watch all my files, and I'm just going to tell it to run the SCSS task. Okay. Did I call it SSWatch? We'll soon find out. You guys have to remind me what I called it. Thank you. Okay, so now it's watching. So now it's totally doing what we would expect SSWatch to do. They go and change something in here. Then that should update. Yay, okay, so it's doing what we wanted. We can also now hook this into live reload. So now we can start doing stuff with it that, you know, we can't do with SSWatch. So just going to skip ahead a little bit. So this requires you to have the live reload plugin on Chrome. So I've got that already to save a bit of time. And again, it tells us how to install. Let's stop that. As well. Reload, and how to use this one. Oh, okay, cool. We just need to pipe to live reload when something changes. So we'll do that in here.
After live reload, you just need to drop it.
Oh, well done. I should have brought prizes or something. There should have been something for everyone that spots something. Okay, and then we're just going to say live reload listen. We're going to add that to our watch function. Yeah? So now live reload should be listening. If I run that task again and turn live reload on and go to our super awesome page. Come on. Oh, it's off. Sorry? Yeah, thanks. I just saw that. Oops. There, I can another change. Okay, call out a color.
Yellow.
Too late. Okay, so that's live reloaded. So I had a bunch of others that I was going to walk you through, but it's a little bit too slow. So I just wanted to point out a few really cool things you can do. You can hook post processes into this. So I've been using Myth, but you can also use auto prefixer or anything like that. And it works just the same way. So pretty much anything you put in here, you know, you can just keep piping these files through as much stuff as you want. So you can process that through Myth. You can run linters. There's a really cool, where is it? I've lost it. But there's a really cool SCSS lint. So you can actually have a linter running as part of this. It will tell you if you've made any like stylistic errors in your Sass. You can use things like gulp rename or delete to rename files. So if you want to maybe put a cache busting file name on your file, you can do that. You can do all of this in this sort of piping scenario. And there was one really cool thing that I wanted to point out to you guys, which doesn't have a Gulp plugin yet, but you know, one of us could probably build one pretty easily, is that there's actually like some people that are writing unit testing frameworks for SAS now. So there's one called Bootcamp. If I can find it, maybe that will give it to me. So, I found it through there. I put all these links up on the GitHub repository as well, so you can have a look around. But it's super cool, like actual unit tests, right? So, and all you need to do, if you want to do a version of this that runs on your build server, maybe just do another Gulp task that doesn't watch. And you might want to take some things out, like you might want to take out live reload. You might want to pipe to a different destination. You might want to include a rename in there. But basically, like you can have this run on your build server as well. So you can have it help you out with your tasks while you're developing, and you can also have it do all the build stuff that you need in one spot. So the GitHub repository is on my GitHub. So that's me. So I'm just Cathy Lill on GitHub. If you want to check out a full version, this one's got a lot more stuff in it. Wait, not on that. So it's got a lot more stuff in it. It's got a dev version and a build version. You don't have to do it this way. You can set everything up as separate Gulp tasks and call them. But I think because you can pipe things through in Gulp, it's actually easier to just use all the plugins that you've got in series for whatever task you need. And there's some extra links for reading there in the GitHub. That's all.